Yo, what's good with y'all niggas? It's your boy, it's Langston, coming at y'all with another video. Alright, in this video, I'm gonna be teaching y'all how to provide for a woman, right? Cause as you know, like as a man, right, it's really not about like who you are for the most part. Who you are does play a factor. 100% plays a factor, right? But you gotta make sure you're providing for these hoes, right? Or, they finna get that shit from somewhere else. So, the first thing you need to understand, right? You gotta understand, like, these women's, like, archetype, right? Right? Based off of, like, my experience, what I've been through with women, but I don't see it in all. I seen it all, bro. Brother, there's nothing a woman can do, right, that can surprise me, right? Right, so, but based off of that, right, based off of all my experience, right, this is what I like, I summed it all up to be, right? Why is my girl doing me like this? Well, why did she say that? That was so disrespectful. How's she gonna do me like that and come running back to me as if nothing happened, right? I got it on the whiteboard right here. I'm gonna get the whiteboard right here, right? I got it on the whiteboard right here. These women, right, they wanna feel better, right? Not do better, right? I bet that shit just like, oh wow, now it all makes sense. Yeah, bro. That's why she did you like that. That's why she disrespected you like that. That's why she did what she did and came running back to you, right? She felt like it would make her feel better, right? Because she don't want to do better, right? I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with this, right? It's just women. They're just naturally very emotional creatures, right? So they just tend to just want to just like to feel better, right? It's just what it is, right? This is every woman's archetype, right? They want to feel better, right? People, they see me, right? They see me interacting with women and shit, right? I'm like, damn, it looks like Langston really know how to talk to women. He just always knows how to say the right things, right? It's not really that I'm saying the right things, right? I'm just saying things in a way where it just makes them feel better, right? Anyways, moving on. All right, who you are, right? All right, who you are, right? This is the key, right? That initial attraction, right? It's the key, right? But it doesn't actually open the door, right? Who you are, this shit really, in the grand scheme of things, in retrospect, right? When you already have an emotional connection established with a woman, right? When the emotional connection's already established, right? This shit really doesn't matter, right? It really only matters, right? It only applies if you are a celebrity, right? Right, what do I mean by who you are, right? I'm talking about like really the external factors, right? Being tall, handsome, muscular, confident, charismatic, funny. It definitely plays a factor, right? But I'm talking about, if you're being intimate with a woman, right? If you're in like an actual like relationship or whatever, right? This shit like it just really only plays a factor when you initially meet a woman, honestly, right? Right? This also doesn't matter, right? How you feel in your personal and your personal perspective, right? Your side of the story will never matter to a woman you're not providing for, right? So what do you need to provide, right? I got y'all. This is what you need to provide, right? If you provide this, right, your relationship, you're going to have less art. You're still going to argue and fight. Everybody does, bro. Everybody does. But if you're providing this, right, everything's just going to go way more smooth, right? Everything's going to go way more smooth, right? It's just that, like, as a man, right, it's just your job to provide, to protect. That's just what it is, being a man, right? That's just how that shit goes, right? All right, look. How/what to provide, right? All right, this is the most important one, right? This is the one that I had trouble with, right? Because, I used to be very, like, emotionally unavailable, right? Just because the way I grew up and shit, right? I went through a lot of fucked up shit. So I used to be, like, emotionally unavailable a lot of the times with women, right? Women, they don't like that shit, right? Like, right, who the fuck wants to be with somebody that has no emotion, right? So this is the most important shit to provide, right? Emotional stability slash support, right? Right, most important quality to provide for a woman, right? Don't be deflective when it comes to your emotions and, and starting a relationship, right? This is another thing I used to do, right? I used to just be deflective, but I used to just, I didn't want to tell her how I feel. I used to have this mindset, right? I just been like, damn, why do I have to, like, why do we need a title? Like, why do I have to call you my girlfriend? Bro, nigga, if you start acting like that with a woman, right, her emotions are not gonna be, like, stable, right? They're gonna think you on some bullshit. They gonna think you trying to fuck them over, right? So they're gonna fuck you over, right? So don't be deflective when it comes to, you know, starting a relationship and shit, right? You know, also, show them attention or else they're gonna get it from somewhere else, right? Them niggas be like, oh, don't validate a woman. Don't put a woman on a pedestal. Bro, if you don't show them attention, they're gonna get it from somewhere else, right? It's just what it is, bro. I've been through it all, bro. I seen it all, you know? That's what it is, bro. If you don't show them attention, they're gonna get it from somewhere else, right? I can't stress that shit enough. All right, finances / money, right? You either have to have the money. You either have to. Damn, I didn't write that shit properly. Hold on. You have to have, you know, your finances in order, right? Or at least have a burning desire to be successful that she's able to feel as well, right? All right, so you can't be no crass dummy ass nigga, right? You can't like be on earth for no reason ass nigga, right? Bro, that shit gonna be like, bro, like these women, they don't want to be with a motherfucking crash dummy, right? Provide some type of service to the world, or, you know, stack up your bread, get your money up, my nigga, right? Do something with your fucking life, right? Last one, good sex, right? You know, the sex can't be trash or mid, right? Right? The reason why I'm telling y'all this, like how to provide for a woman, right? Because when it comes to these women, bro, they're not gonna tell you what you're doing wrong, right? Like, it don't matter. Like, going back to, you know, who you are doesn't matter, right? You know, being handsome, confident, that shit don't matter, right? At the end of the day, they're not gonna tell you what you're doing wrong. They're just gonna think inside their head, right? They're gonna think inside their head, I shouldn't have to tell him what to do, right? That's what they're gonna think inside of their head. If you're not providing this shit, bro, you know, they gonna get that shit from somewhere else, bro. Right? Right, so this is all the shit that you need to provide for a woman, right? To, you know, have like a decent relationship, right? Everything should go smooth for the most part as long as, you know, you're doing all of this shit, right? Then, like, once you're providing, right? If you provide all of this shit, right? You provide all of this shit. Going back to the other whiteboard, right? Then this shit right here, this shit starts to matter, right? How you feel as a man and your perspective, right? Why the fuck would they give a fuck about your perspective, right? If you're not providing shit, right? Right? This shit doesn't matter. This shit doesn't matter. These shit, like I said, they only play a factor, right? If you're providing for the woman, right? If you're providing for her, that's when she's like, oh my God, you know, he's so handsome, he's so muscular, right? Because, you know, having muscles and shit, right? That shit doesn't unlame you, right? It doesn't unlame you. It just plays a factor in the initial attraction when you're dealing with a woman, right? Like, that shit, bro, this shit don't matter, right? If you're not providing, bro. I can't stress this shit enough, bro. Anyways, I don't really got nothing else to say. You know, it's Langston and I'm out.